Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today marks a moment where 13 years of learning, testing, refining, failing, and rising again in the realm of communication skills converges into one single block of time, 53 minutes. You heard that right, 53 minutes. What I'm going to share with you is not some casual tips and tricks session. This is the distillation of over a decade of deliberate craft. When I started 13 years ago, I was like many of you, wanting to speak clearly, wanting to connect deeply, wanting to influence without feeling fake or forced. I stumbled, I got ignored, my words didn't land, relationships faltered, presentations fell flat, but I refused to stay there. I learned, I adapted, I sharpened, I asked the hard questions. Why didn't they listen? What in me prevented them from responding? And over time, I built frameworks, I built habits, I built a voice that commands respect and delivers impact. Today, you're invited into that journey, but not in years, not over months, in 53 wholehearted minutes. Because you deserve to leap, frog the pain, the mistakes, the wasted time, straight into clarity, influence, and legacy. What we'll cover: how to reset your mindset so communication becomes a tool of legacy, not just functional exchange. Then practical frameworks you can apply right away today, this week, this month, to shift from speaking to connecting, from noise to impact, and finally, how you build a communication legacy, what you say, how you say it, and who hears it beyond you. So buckle up, this isn't passive listening time, this is active transformation time. Ready, let's roll. 13 years, think about that for a second. 13 years of speaking, failing, learning, falling flat, standing tall, getting misunderstood, getting heard, and then mastering the art of communication. Not just as a skill, but as a way of life. Mastery isn't born out of a book. It isn't something you can borrow from someone else. Mastery is carved through repetition, through resilience, through the quiet hours where no one claps, where no one sees you stumble, yet you keep going because something inside whispers, you're made for more. In those early days, I thought communication was about words, about saying the right thing at the right time. I thought it was about sounding smart, fluent, impressive. But over time, I realized it's not about words. It's about energy, it's about presence, it's about alignment between what you say, what you mean, and who you are. Because when those three align, your words stop being sounds. They become signals, they travel beyond ears, they hit hearts. That's communication mastery. The journey didn't begin with clarity. It began with confusion. I remember moments where I spoke, and people looked at me like I said nothing. I remember presentations where I rehearsed for hours, but my message still died in the air. That's when I understood communication isn't just what you say, it's what they hear, and what they hear depends on the version of you that's speaking. If you're speaking from insecurity, it will leak. If you're speaking from fear, it will show. If you're speaking from ego, it will repel. But when you speak from purpose, from clarity, from authenticity, people listen. There's no shortcut to that. You can't fake presence. You can't fake conviction. You can't pretend to care. The audience knows. People can feel you before they understand you, and that's why this journey to mastery is deeply internal. It's not about adding new techniques. It's about stripping away everything that hides your truth. Because underneath the layers of fear, comparison, and self-doubt, there's a communicator already inside you. One who's powerful, confident, and certain. That's the real you. Over 13 years, I learned that communication isn't built in front of a mirror, it's built in the moments of real life. In difficult conversations, in times when your heart is racing, your palms are sweating, but you speak anyway. In the rejections that sting but teach you resilience. Every awkward silence, every stumble, every mistake was shaping me. It wasn't failure, it was feedback. Every no refined my yes. Every moment of doubt built depth. Mastery doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself over time. One day you look back and realize you no longer chase words, they flow through you. You don't perform confidence, you embody it. You don't seek validation, you project value. And that's when you realize communication isn't something you do. It's something you become. I discovered that great communicators don't just talk, they transfer belief. They make you feel something, they move you from uncertainty to conviction, they make you see yourself differently, and that only happens when you've done the inner work, when you've wrestled with your fears, confronted your own weaknesses, and turned them into wisdom. There were nights I almost gave up, times I questioned what's the point, times when silence seemed easier than expression. But those were the moments that trained me to dig deeper, because comfort never creates greatness. Growth comes from friction. You cannot become a powerful communicator by staying safe. You must step into rooms where your voice trembles, where your message feels too big for you, where your doubt whispers not yet, but your spirit answers now. 13 years taught me something profound. Communication mastery is not about perfection, it's about connection. People don't remember flawless sentences, they remember the truth that came through you. They remember how you made them feel seen, understood, empowered. They remember your presence, not your grammar. Every year, every stage, every failure, every success built another layer of depth in me. And that's what I'm giving back now, the distilled wisdom of 13 years of trying, refining, and transforming. Because the journey to mastery doesn't end when you're good at speaking. It begins when your words start changing lives. So, if you're listening to this, wondering if your voice matters, remember this. The voice you're searching for is already inside you. You don't need to copy anyone. You don't need to sound like anyone else. You need to uncover what's already yours. Speak from the truth you've lived. Speak from the lessons you've earned. Speak from the fire that no one else can replicate, because your authenticity is your power. That's the legacy of this journey. It's not just learning how to talk, it's learning how to touch lives. 13 years taught me that communication is not about being impressive, it's about being impactful. And when your message comes from that place, your words don't just echo, they endure. That's what mastery feels like. Not loud, not forced, but grounded, calm, certain, purposeful. It's when you no longer chase applause, because you know your voice is already building a legacy that will speak long after you've stopped talking. Imagine taking 13 years of lessons, failures, experiments, and breakthroughs, and compressing all of that into just 53 minutes. That's not just a presentation, that's concentrated value. It's like distilling a lifetime of sweat and scars into a single drop of wisdom that can change someone's direction forever. Most people spend years trying to learn what experience can teach, but the power of concentrated value is that it gives you a shortcut to understanding without skipping the struggle. It hands you the essence without the excess. The truth is, time doesn't equal transformation. You can spend 13 years doing something and still stay stuck. What transforms you is awareness, reflection, and the willingness to extract the lesson from every moment. Concentrated value is born from that discipline, the discipline of not letting a single experience go to waste. Every rejection, every miscommunication, every moment where I spoke and nobody listened, every victory where words landed perfectly. All of it got stored, refined, and compressed into something I could share. Something that saved someone else 13 years of confusion. People think communication mastery is about learning 100 techniques. It's not. It's about learning 10 lessons that actually work, and then living them so deeply that they become part of who you are. Concentrated value means stripping away what's unnecessary, what's decorative, what looks smart but doesn't move lives, and keeping only what transforms, because real value is never in the volume, it's in the depth. When I look back at my own journey, I see thousands of hours of practice, countless moments of silence where I questioned myself, endless revisions of how I spoke, stood, and connected. But when I step in front of an audience today, I don't bring all those thousands of hours with me. I bring the essence of them. I bring the distilled clarity of what actually works. I bring the mindset, the patterns, the truth that survived the test of time. That's the power of concentration. You see, most people are full of information but starving for transformation. They know what to say but not how to make people feel. They collect ideas but don't embody any of them. Concentrated value bridges that gap. It takes knowledge and turns it into usable energy, something you can apply right now. It's not about impressing people with what you know, it's about empowering them with what they can do. There's a reason why the most powerful messages are simple, because simplicity is the final form of sophistication. It takes years to say something meaningful in one sentence. It takes countless trials to find clarity that cuts through noise. And that's what concentrated value is, clarity born out of complexity. 13 years of chaos, confusion, and curiosity compressed into truth that lands immediately. When I teach or speak now, my intention isn't to overwhelm, it's to awaken. I don't want you to walk away thinking, wow, that was a lot. I want you to walk away thinking that one idea changed everything. That's what concentrated value does. It's the one sentence that rewires a belief. The one story that flips a perspective, the one insight that finally makes everything click. You don't get to that kind of value by accident. You earn it through time, patience, and brutal honesty with yourself. You earn it by asking what truly matters. Because not everything that's true is useful, and not everything that's useful is timeless. Concentrated value is what remains after time tests your truth and your truth still stands. That's why I don't just teach communication. I teach what communication cost me to learn. Every lesson I share came from somewhere real, from embarrassment, from failure, from persistence, from the hunger to connect when I didn't know how. And when I speak, I don't speak as a teacher above you. I speak as someone who's been through the same fire and found something worth handing back. That's what gives my words weight. That's what makes them real. Think of concentrated value like pure gold. You can't get it without heat. You can't shape it without pressure. You can't wear it without refining it. Every sentence that carries value has gone through that same fire. It's been tested, doubted, challenged, reshaped, and proven. That's why it lands differently, because it carries not just words, but years of lived truth. And when you give people concentrated value, you give them something rare. You give them the chance to move faster than you did, to build their skill in months, not decades, to skip the mistakes you already paid for. That's legacy. Legacy is not about holding on to what you learned. It's about passing it forward in a way that multiplies. So when you listen to me, you're not just getting knowledge. You're getting time. You're getting the 13 years it took to figure out what matters and what doesn't. You're getting everything that failed so you don't have to repeat it. You're getting the essence of the journey, boiled down into wisdom you can use now. That's the real gift. That's what makes this moment worth it. Concentrated value doesn't speak louder, it speaks sharper. It doesn't take more time, it takes more truth, and when truth meets clarity, transformation becomes inevitable. So as you take in these words, don't just hear them, absorb them, don't just understand them, apply them. Because the power of concentrated value isn't in the delivery, it's in the decision you make after hearing it. 3 minutes can feel small compared to 13 years, but if those 3 minutes contain the right truth, it can alter the next 30 years of your life. That's the potential of focused wisdom. That's the reason this message exists, not to fill time, but to fill purpose. And when purpose speaks, time listens. Everything begins in the mind. Before the words, before the confidence, before the audience, there's the mindset. If the mindset isn't right, nothing else will stand. You can learn every speaking technique, every strategy, every formula for communication, but if your mind still believes you're not enough, your voice will always hesitate. The shift doesn't happen when you master your speech, it happens when you master your thinking. Because your voice follows your belief. For years, I used to think communication was external, about delivery, about tone, pacing, expression. I spent hours refining the outside, trying to look confident, trying to sound powerful, but something was missing. I could feel the disconnect, the difference between performing and being. Then one day it hit me. The problem wasn't in my mouth, it was in my mindset. I didn't need to sound powerful. I needed to believe I was powerful. That's the shift that changes everything. When you change your mindset, you stop chasing validation and start creating impact. You stop trying to be impressive and start being intentional, because you realize communication isn't about how do I look, it's about how can I serve. The moment your focus shifts from fear to purpose, your entire presence transforms. People feel it, they lean in, they listen differently, because energy never lies. I learned that the human mind is the first audience you ever speak to. Before you face a crowd, you face yourself. And if the voice inside your head is full of doubt, every word you speak will carry that vibration. But when your internal voice says, I'm ready, I have something worth saying, my message matters, then your external voice automatically aligns with conviction. That's what mindset shift really means. It's aligning your internal story with your external message. The truth is, most people speak from fear, fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood, fear of failing, but fear is a lens. It distorts reality. It makes you focus on how you're being perceived instead of what you're meant to deliver. When you shift your mindset from fear to contribution, you stop thinking, what if they don't like me? And start thinking, what if this helps someone? That single thought changes your entire energy. Because now you're not performing, you're serving. Every great communicator you've ever admired went through this transformation. They didn't just learn how to speak, they learned how to think. They replaced insecurity with intention. They stopped rehearsing perfection and started rehearsing purpose. They realized their words weren't meant to please everyone. They were meant to reach the right ones, and that awareness gave them freedom. Mindset shift isn't a moment, it's a process, it's daily work. Every morning you train your mind to see opportunity where others see fear. You remind yourself that your message is bigger than your mistakes. You learn to silence the inner critic that says you're not ready with the truth that says I was born for this. That repetition builds belief. That belief builds presence, and that presence builds impact. I've seen people who knew all the speaking techniques but still couldn't move a room, and I've seen others with imperfect words ignite entire audiences because their energy was pure, their conviction was real. You can't fake that, you can't rehearse that. It comes from a mindset that says, I'm here to give, not to impress. That's the secret, that's the power of a mindset shift. When I truly understood this, my entire approach changed. Before walking onto any stage, I stopped asking, will they like me? I started asking, will they feel me? I stopped trying to sound perfect and started trying to sound real. And the more real I became, the more impact I created. Because authenticity is magnetic. When your words come from alignment, they don't just reach ears, they reach emotions. A mindset shift means you stop seeing communication as performance and start seeing it as connection. You begin to understand that every word you speak is an opportunity to transfer belief, to plant an idea, to awaken something in someone. And that's when communication stops being a skill, it becomes a calling. But here's the truth, the mind will fight you at first. It will whisper all your old stories. It will remind you of every time you failed, every time you froze, every time someone didn't listen. That's normal. The old mindset doesn't leave quietly. It needs to be replaced. Every time you feel fear, replace it with faith. Every time you hear doubt, answer it with discipline. Every time you feel small, remember your purpose. Because when your purpose is clear, your fear loses its power. Over the years, I learned that mindset is not something you fix once. It's something you build daily. Every experience, every challenge, every opportunity is a chance to reinforce who you are. That's how you evolve from a speaker into a messenger. You're not just sharing words. You're shaping reality. You're influencing how people see themselves. You're transferring your belief into others. That's the real work. So the next time you step up to speak, don't focus on the audience first. Focus on the mindset that walks with you. Speak from conviction, not from caution. Speak from alignment, not from anxiety. Speak from legacy, not from approval, because when your mind is right, everything else follows. Your tone sharpens, your posture strengthens, your words carry power. The shift you're looking for is not external, it's internal. Once that shift happens, everything outside starts changing automatically. Confidence is no longer something you perform, it's something you project. Influence is no longer something you chase, it's something you become. And that's the point where communication stops being about speaking. It becomes about leading. That's what the mindset shift creates. It turns your voice into vision. It turns fear into focus. It turns communication into transformation. Because when the mind transforms, everything else must follow. Transformation doesn't happen because you listen. It happens because you act. Actionable transformation is when knowledge stops being theory and starts becoming lifestyle. It's when you stop collecting ideas and start applying principles. It's when the lesson doesn't just sound good. It shows up in the way you speak, move, decide, and lead. Too many people are full of information but empty of execution. They know what to do, but they never do what they know. Real transformation begins the moment you stop waiting for the perfect time and start working with the time you already have. For years, I studied communication like it was science. I read books, watched experts, memorized strategies, but I kept asking myself, why am I still not seeing results? Why do I still struggle to connect when I already know how? The answer was simple. I was learning but not living it. I was a student of information, not a practitioner of transformation. That realization hit me like a wake-up call, because you can't master something you don't apply. Knowledge is potential power, but it only becomes real power when you use it. Actionable transformation is about turning lessons into habits. It's about taking one insight and saying, how do I live this today? It's not about changing everything overnight. It's about changing one thing consistently. You don't become an impactful communicator by memorizing hundreds of quotes. You become one by practicing presence, empathy, and courage every single day. The transformation happens in the doing, not the knowing. Think about it. Every time you open your mouth, you have a choice to speak reactively or intentionally, to express your emotions or to direct your energy, to talk for attention or to communicate for impact. The more you choose the second option, the more you transform. That's actionable transformation. It's not a switch, it's a system, a series of repeated choices that build the next version of you. When people ask, how do I become confident? I tell them, confidence isn't taught. It's built through action. You don't wake up confident. You become confident by showing up again and again, even when you're uncertain. Every time you speak despite the fear, you rewire your brain. Every time you take the step, even when your voice shakes, you strengthen your foundation. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck isn't talent, it's repetition. It's the courage to apply what they've learned until it becomes who they are. I used to think transformation required massive changes, new routines, big breakthroughs, sudden clarity. But the truth is, transformation is built through small, disciplined actions repeated with belief. It's the way you prepare before a conversation, the way you pause before reacting, the way you listen instead of waiting to respond. Those tiny shifts compound over time until one day you realize you don't just speak differently, you are different. Actionable transformation also requires accountability. You have to hold yourself to the standard you say you believe in. Because it's easy to talk about growth, it's harder to live it when no one's watching. You can post quotes about confidence, but can you stay composed when someone challenges you? You can talk about empathy, but can you still listen when you disagree? That's where real transformation is tested. In the moments that demand integrity over image. When you act on what you learn, something powerful happens. You build momentum, and momentum is what separates dreamers from doers. The more you act, the easier it becomes to act again. The fear starts to fade, the hesitation begins to dissolve, and what once felt impossible becomes instinct. You no longer think about communicating with confidence. You just do it. That's the beauty of actionable transformation. It becomes part of your identity. Every principle that changed my life only worked because I practiced it. I didn't just write it down, I lived it out loud, I failed with it, I adjusted it, I repeated it. That's how transformation solidifies. It goes from theory to muscle memory. The goal is not perfection, it's progress that compounds into power. If you're serious about growth, stop asking for new information and start asking, what am I doing with what I already know? Because the bridge between knowing and becoming is doing. When you apply one truth consistently, it creates a ripple effect across every area of your life. Speak one truth with confidence, and it builds courage for the next conversation. Show up authentically once, and it sets the tone for every interaction that follows. Actionable transformation means you stop treating growth like an event and start treating it like a practice. You don't wait for motivation. You build systems that keep you moving even when motivation disappears. You don't wait for the perfect conditions. You create results in imperfect situations. Because growth doesn't wait for comfort. It happens in discomfort. And here's the best part. When you start applying what you've learned, your results begin to teach you more than any book ever could. Experience becomes your best mentor. Every time you take action, you discover what works for you. You stop copying others and start developing your own voice, your own rhythm, your own framework. That's when you stop chasing transformation and start embodying it. Actionable transformation is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters with intention. It's about taking one principle, one strategy, one truth, and using it to shift your reality. Because nothing changes until you do. Once you take that first step, the universe meets you halfway. Opportunities open up. Confidence multiplies. People start responding differently, not because they changed, but because you did. So don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the right moment. The right moment is the one you decide to move. Speak the truth today, apply the lesson today, practice the skill today, because transformation doesn't live in the future. It's created in this moment through action. Every time you act, you write a new story about who you are becoming. And if you keep acting with purpose, one day you'll look back and realize you didn't just learn to communicate better. You became a communicator who transforms every room you enter. Legacy is not what happens after you're gone. It's what happens every time you open your mouth and something inside someone changes. Legacy is the invisible imprint you leave on minds, hearts, and generations through the words you speak, the energy you project, and the truth you live. Most people spend their lives chasing recognition. But the wise don't chase fame, they build footprints that time can't erase. That's the difference between making noise and making history. Legacy vision starts with one simple understanding. Your communication is not just about you. It's about what remains in others after you've spoken. It's about how your message shapes someone's mindset, how your presence redefines someone's possibility. Every conversation is a chance to either add light or add noise. And when you choose light consistently, you start crafting legacy without even realizing it. For years, I thought the goal was to speak powerfully, to sound great, to be remembered for my words, but the deeper I went, the more I learned. True impact isn't measured by applause. It's measured by transformation. It's not about how loud you speak. It's about how deeply your message lands. Legacy is not built on performance. It's built on purpose. And that purpose has to be bigger than your ego. When you operate with a legacy vision, your focus shifts. You stop asking, how can I look good? And start asking, how can I make them better? You stop trying to impress and start trying to influence. You understand that every room you walk into is a room you're meant to lift, not just occupy, because legacy-driven communication is service. It's using your voice to plant seeds of belief in people who have forgotten their own strength. Legacy vision isn't about speaking for the moment. It's about speaking for eternity. It's about knowing that one idea shared today can echo through 1,000 lives tomorrow. It's about realizing that a single sentence spoken with conviction can outlive you. When you truly grasp that, your relationship with communication changes. You stop speaking to be heard. You start speaking to awaken. Every person you meet carries a story, and your words can become the turning point in theirs. That's what legacy does. It multiplies. It takes what's inside you and passes it through others until it becomes movement, and movements don't start in crowds. They start in conversations, one person inspired. One life shifted, one voice ignited. That's how legacy spreads. But legacy vision requires responsibility. It demands that you guard your words because words build worlds. You can't speak recklessly when you understand the power of what you carry. You can't waste your platform complaining, comparing, or conforming, because your platform isn't about popularity, it's about purpose. Every word you speak is either building bridges or burning them. Every message you deliver is either empowering or emptying. Legacy vision means you choose empowerment every time. The most powerful communicators aren't remembered for how much they said. They are remembered for what they stood for. Legacy vision is not about the number of people who follow you. It's about the number of people who become because of you. You know you're walking in legacy when your words start living inside others long after the moment has passed. Over the years, I've learned that legacy is built in private, long before it's seen in public. It's in the discipline to prepare when no one's watching. It's in the integrity to tell the truth even when it costs you comfort. It's in the humility to keep learning, to keep refining, to keep serving even when you've already achieved success. Legacy is not built in a single speech, it's built in every decision that aligns with your message. There's a kind of peace that comes when you start thinking legacy instead of likes, when you stop worrying about how fast you grow and start focusing on how deep you go. Because trends fade, but truth never does. You can chase what's popular, or you can build what's permanent. You can be a moment, or you can be a movement. Legacy vision always chooses the latter. Every day I remind myself, my voice is borrowed time. My influence is borrowed space. What I do with it determines whether I'm just another speaker or someone who shifts generations. That awareness keeps me grounded. It reminds me that I'm not here to sound powerful. I'm here to leave something powerful behind. And legacy doesn't always look grand. Sometimes it's one person who decides not to give up because of something you said. Sometimes it's a child who dares to dream differently because your story gave them permission. Sometimes it's a stranger who finds courage because you showed vulnerability. Legacy isn't measured in magnitude, it's measured in meaning. Legacy vision also teaches you patience because real impact takes time. You might not see the harvest of every seed you plant, but that doesn't mean it's not growing. The echo of your words will reach places your feet never will. That's the beauty of legacy. You don't have to be present for it to continue. So ask yourself every day, what message am I leaving behind? What do I want people to remember when they think of my name, my work, my presence? That question should shape how you show up, how you speak, how you serve. Because every moment is a message, and every message adds to the legacy you're building. Legacy vision isn't about achieving something for yourself. It's about creating something that outlives you. It's about speaking in a way that continues to inspire even when your voice is silent. And when you live with that awareness, every conversation becomes sacred. You stop speaking from the need to be seen, and you start speaking from the desire to leave something behind that matters. That's the true meaning of legacy vision, to use your voice as a vehicle for impact, to live in a way that makes your message immortal, and to understand that greatness isn't in being remembered. It's in being the reason others remember what they're capable of. As we close, I want you to sit still for a moment and ask yourself, after this 53 minutes, what will I do differently? Because knowledge without action is just potential wasted. But you here, you have inherited the investment of 13 years of refining. Now the baton is in your hand. Imagine 12 months from now, someone says your name, they remember how you spoke. They remember how you made them feel. They remember a message you delivered that changed them. That is the power of communication when it's aligned with a legacy mindset. It's not just did I speak well. It's did I leave something behind? So go out, speak, connect, influence, but more than that, build. Build your legacy because your voice matters, your message matters, and the people who hear you deserve the best version of you. Thank you for being here, for committing these 53 minutes to your growth. The next 13 years of impact begin now. Let's create it.